offensive drives. So now you're looking at the Broncos having the ball more, having more opportunities for guys like Cortland Sutton. So yeah, like if you're gonna play Cortland Sutton, if he's on your roster,
yeah,
this is what you use him for right now.
How would you do Bo Nix versus Patrick Mahomes? I mean, I feel like Bo Nix has some fun upside. And again, like we keep saying, like especially this week with the matchups.
I would go Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. I pushed it too far. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm going Patrick Mahomes. First, he got the Raiders. Second, they already talking smack to him with a Kermit the Frog puppet.
Yeah, that's right. That was.
Why do you go black?
No, that was preseason, right? That was like OTAs.
Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback in the game right now. He doesn't forget.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
I don't care if it was 3 years ago. I'm pretty sure the Raiders are the last team that beat them.
I wouldn't be surprised. That was the game that sealed Antonio Pierce's.
Possibly. It was
was it
the Broncos.
It was the Broncos. No. Oh, I think you hit mute by accident. I think you hit your sneeze mute button by accident.
But the Raiders did beat the Chiefs by completing only like 3 passes. Aiden O'Connell did last year.
Yeah, yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, so yeah. I would go Patrick Mahomes over Bo Nix.
Let me ask you this on a little deeper level. You know, we've talked about DeAndre Hopkins a bit this show. Well, he's left behind. Everyone's on Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley's hurt. Whatever. Like, we'll see what his practice status is and everything. Even if he's not, though, is Tyler Boyd maybe the answer here? Not like everyone just like immediately going to Calvin Ridley, and I get it. You know, like Calvin Ridley's great, whatever. But like Tyler Boyd has had some games where he's popped, and he might just be, I don't know, maybe be a better fit here. He had some targets last week. I'll pull up his utilization score while you answer this, but I think like it's kind of like we're forgetting about Tyler Boyd.
I'm terrified of anything in that Titans offense outside of Tony Pollard.
They're supposed to be a good offensive team. I mean, they brought an offensive guy to do all this, and like it's like they're the same Titans. Yeah, he had a couple of games last year. Did we just preach with these young quarterbacks patience?
Yeah, you notice I've never talked about Will Levis too, right?
Yeah, I've noticed.
Because I'm giving some patience, but I'm just saying, you know, right now, that's just like, you know me as a guy who was high on Anthony Richardson. But if you're telling me right now, well, how do we feel about Josh Downs? Well, I would say, well, their quarterback is Anthony Richardson. That's not working right now. So it goes, you know, all around. And right now, it's not. They're in a much worse position than the Colts are right now. So even with DeAndre Hopkins gone, there's been no connection with Will Levis or Mason Rudolph with Calvin Ridley. Like, it's just not happening. He had a game with 8, and he caught none of them.
Yeah. It's not like
no.
Like, we like to talk about targets. Here y'all.
Yeah.
It's something, yeah, routes run.
Everything where air yards probably scores you something.
Routes run per DOB or date of birth, whatever the case.
Date of birth.
None of that don't get you no fantasy points. So, yeah, you could say Tyler Boyd, that's cool, but man, it ain't pretty there. It's let's see if we can run the ball and get a few quick ones here and there.
So let's take a break. We'll come back. It's our last segment of the week. We got a lot still. And then of course Meanie and Dane take over. So yeah, Lawrence Jackson, Nadolfino here on the Fantasy Life Show. We take a quick break. We'll be right back with more fantasy football talk after this.
Want to hear something scary? Spirits are swirling in the SiriusXM app with creepy Halloween dreams. Drift into the dark with Scream Radio. Here's Johnny. Or ride with the devil to Nitro's Halloween Headbangers. Find even more monstrous fun right now on the SiriusXM app. Just search Halloween.
It's more rewarding when you lose your first round pick and you find a way to win anyway. From starts and advice to waiver pickups to so much more. Fantasy football fans, turn to Elite Sports on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, dominating your league. Plus, the phone lines are open to take your calls every Thursday. All the fantasy football action is happening on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, Channel 87. Brought to you by Xfinity. Stream live sports from the best seat in the house. Bring on the good stuff. Xfinity here. How can we help?
Yeah, there are so many football games streaming this season. Can Xfinity Internet handle it?
Oh, we know the game is only live once, so we built a network with all-pro speeds and low lag, so you don't miss a snap.
So I can yell, he's open, but he's actually open?
Yeah, but the quarterback still can't hear you.
Xfinity is the best way to power game day. Stream live sports from the best seat in the house with Xfinity. Bring on the good stuff. Actual speeds vary and not guaranteed. Streaming content limited to the U.S.
Run your game as the basketball season ramps up with Prize Picks, the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. The app is really simple to use. Pick 2 or more players across any sport, pick more or less on their projection, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Prize Picks even invented the flex play, so you can still cash out if one of your picks doesn't hit. Not only that, but Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy app with injury insurance. If one of your players goes down in the first half, Prize Picks doesn't count it as a loss. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code FANTASY and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code FANTASY on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50.
More advice. Win your fantasy football league with Fantasy Sports Channel 87 and on the SiriusXM app.
Wrapping up our portion of your beautiful day. Hopefully you've learned something, taken something away from this. Happy Halloween, everybody, too. We're not going to see you again or you're not going to hear our voices again until it's November, which is crazy. Lawrence, when's your Christmas tree go up? November 1st?
As late as possible.
Yeah. You get a real one, or do you have one in a box?
Sorry, we got one of those big joints that you can take out, put it out. I want to put it out wait as long as I can to put it out and take it down as quickly as possible.
Oh, come on. You're not going to be able to, you have a kid. You're not going to be able to pull that off.
Hey, me up for Christmas.
Yeah, all right. I mean, ours are all, like, Halloween comes down, like, let's put up Christmas. So.
Yeah, man, I mean, look, I don't really control the Christmas tree going up in
No, you don't.
here, so I'll just tell you what it
Don't be saying what you're gonna do and you're not gonna do.
It's all an illusion.
He said he's not responsible for the tree going up.
Yeah, you had to put a perm on what he just
I
said.
want to get into two pieces.
Said take it down.
One more guy that went off was super interesting was Nick Chubb. He's the ninth most traded player in CBS leagues. Is your value for Nick Chubb going forward basically like 12 months? Like Nick Chubb is Nick Chubb again? Or do you want to see, I mean, it'll be too late when we see what happens this week and like next week with Jada Cooper, Deshaun Watson, and Nick Chubb, you know, being more than eased into things, being thrown into the fire, I guess.
Yeah, there's some things here with that. If you drafted Nick Chubb, and he been on your roster, sitting in your IR spot for this long, why you even trade him? I mean, everyone's negotiable.
Right.
Even me and you now know we'll negotiate anything.
Everybody's got a price.
Everybody got a price. But if you're someone who drafted, had him on your roster, put him on your IR, had him on your bench, the offer you gotta be winning that.
Javonte Williams?
Nah, I'll keep Nick Chubb.
Really?
Because he's that much better of a player.
How about PPR Devon Achane?
I might have to go with Achane because those two, if both of those guys coming into the season healthy, would be much closer in rankings. If Chubb came into the season healthy, he'd probably be like running back 7 or 8. Devon Achane will be like running back 10 or 11, right? So, but he didn't come in healthy, and we don't know what's going to happen with the Browns offense, then I would take Devon Achane.
How about Kareem Hunt and Tyler Lockett for your Nick Chubb?
Maybe.
Let's call it half. Let's call it half.
Tyler Lockett should be a good play for the next however many weeks, 4 weeks or however long Metcalf is out. Maybe. I would say because Kareem Hunt is rolling right now.
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett has had some okay games right now. Nick Chubb, we're still waiting. So if I'm needed to get into playoff position, I'm taking that off.
Oh wait, I got a great one. And then we'll stop this tomfoolery because it doesn't apply to everybody. We're just trying to, you know what we're doing? We're establishing the value
Well,
of Nick
there's a
Chubb.
lot of people out there who have
Yeah.
and they're wondering what to do with him right now in many different scenarios.
If you're driving around, you hear this, like, we're just like, what's the Nick Chubb scale here? We're just trying to establish it a little bit. Superflex. Nick Chubb for, let's call it Superflex speed. Nick Chubb for Russell Wilson and let's throw Kareem Hunt. Is Kareem Hunt and Russell Wilson too much? Is that too absurd?
I would take that easy. So it may be too much, especially in the Superflex league.
How about take Big Speed and Russell Wilson? Because there's a fear that Russell Wilson could lose his job again. And
Well,
take Big Speed.
Take Bigsby is not here. Like,
Right.
when Travis Etienne come back, that's gone. Like, that ain't gonna be like that. At least in the short term. So I would keep Nick Chubb in that scenario.
How about Jalen Waddle and Russell Wilson? Say you're okay, right? I don't know. We're trying to make it hard. And that's Superflex is such a weird one because you gotta, you always want that corner.
We're in the thick of it, Daddy.
I know I just started a whole segment called what's the Lawrence Fund? Besides Marcus Mariota is a quitter.
Yeah. Even quitters get a second chance, I guess. And I would never quit on this show. That's my thought. I may be out.
And by the way, Adam Ross will be here next week.
It'll be for real obligations. Not because, I might have messed up a little bit, so I don't want to show my face around the building. No, I know if I messed up on this show, I'm coming right back to redeem myself, dog.
Hey man, I mispronounced Jim Bowden today, and I've kind of known the guy for a while, so I feel bad about that. You always feel bad if people call me Nando, and then I'm out here saying Jim Bowden. So, like,
People call you Nando. Hey, Nando.
oh my god, dude. Let me tell you,
That hurts. That hurts to say that like that.
I got a gallery of what people write when I go order a coffee on my cup, and it's never the same. Never the same twice in a row. And it never, how do you spell it? How do you think of this? They used to Fernando. Like not a lot of people get a Fernando.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. We're about to play some music and get out of here. We hope you do enjoy Chris Meany and the Spitz Martinez. Lawrence, I don't want to more of this. Enjoy your holiday. Good luck to your weekend.
Good days, I don't know.
Shout out to everyone back in. I wonder how they watched it. I don't know where they is. 1-800 Hope Best Line. Take that line. We will talk to you later. Goodbye, everybody.
Next Thursday.
Every fantasy football champion makes
Next
one
Wednesday.
defining move. You are just a season-long fantasy football player. Don't overanalyze life.
Wednesday coming up. The last day of the month.
Fantasy Sports Radio can help you make that
30.
questions and their analysts for 45 straight questions and buzzers.
6 days. Yeah, it would have to be next Thursday. So
time back.
Yeah, it will be Thursday, beginning in November.
They changed the time back in the beginning of November. See that, innit? Kobe Bryant truck. Kobe Bryant truck.
On MLB Network Radio, third baseman Max Muncy says no matter the pitcher, one has to have a plan. Wait, before you even get to the on-deck, what is your approach? What are you trying to do? What do you want to do?
Somebody like 6 o'clock this morning, so
Make sure
my
you
time should take
pound that into your head and reinforce it over and over again so that when you get in the box, you're not going to do it. MLB Network Radio is live pregame coverage from Dodger Stadium at 5 Eastern. The national broadcast just after 8 Eastern. Yankees can be heard on Sirius 208 XM 175 and Dodgers Sirius 210 XM 177.
World Series Dodgers and Mets.
Cleared by an independent neurologist. Return will start Sunday at the Cardinals. So a concussed week 2. After not being spotted in the media portion of practice, Commanders quarterback Jake Daniels able to get reps for the first time this week today. Daniels dealing with a rib injury. Indications are this will be a game time decision against the Bears. ESPN reports Ravens linebacker Roquan Smith is 5 years 17 grand for a hip drop tackle that caused the season-ending ankle injury of Bucs receiver Chris Godwin Monday night. Week 8 preview, Sirius XM NFL Radio Channel 88. Bill Sims joins the Mad Dogs.
His season-ending injury.
Channel 82. ESPN reports Pelicans guard DeJounte Murray is up to 6 weeks after undergoing surgery for his fractured left hand. Penguins announced goalie Tristan Jarry was sent home from the team's Western Canada road trip. Jarry wanted one of the goals against, average of near 5.5 in 3 games. Had to get extra work. For Sirius XM Sports, I'm Zach Ross. If it's happening in sports,
OG Ziegler.
Expert fantasy football talk from FTN Fantasy.
I think DeAndre Hopkins, you talk about the skill of this player, I think he's one of the best wide receivers. He is healthy and out there. He is a true alpha.
From Dynasty to DFS to season long, FTN Fantasy is your cheat code.
All right, 40 people, double tap that screen. You gotta have 20 likes if we got 40 people.
I said we need 40 likes and we got 40 people.
Yeah. I'll take 40. On 3, everybody hit the like button. 1, 2, 3.
Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Crispy and Dave Martinez here with you for the next couple of hours, getting you set for Week 8 in the NFL. The ball got underway last night. Of course, diving.
Keep those likes up, guys. Hit that like button.
And the Rams still alive in this thing. Discuss Puka and all things Rams and Vikings Center. Takeaways from last night. Of course, the show. You've been hanging out with us on Friday. We greatly appreciate you. Always reach out to play 963.
Welcome to the channel. Hit the like button if you like the office window.
All of the players that you feel like you may have some questions on, and running back, wide receiver, quarterback, and tight end. We'll hear from Alex Whipple as we normally do here on a Friday in about 15-20 minutes to take a look at the daily fantasy sports slates, and we will hear from Mike Randall as well. And take a look at some of the best bets at FTN using the NFL betting model. FTN show. Save yourself a little bit of cash. We'll
Football picture over here is supposed to be in California.
Where we at?
Dave Martinez has some speeds.
I know,
Like
I'm seeing what exit over
What's going on? Excited for Week 8, man. I think there's some interesting matchups out there. We're getting into what I want. Trading season here in your fantasy league. Definitely time to really talk into the FTN Fantasy Show. And you just talked about it with the Rams, like maybe still alive. To be honest, I think it's better than still alive if you want to know the truth. I mean, they win 2 games in 5 days, go from 1-4 to 3-4. And if you look at that NFC West, man, like there's just a lot of teams around 500. Most of the teams in that division have a tough matchup. You know, 2 of them are dogs this week, so I think the arrow is pointing up, and I certainly think we heard the end of that Cooper Cup trade talkers.
Yes, absolutely, and it just felt like watching the Rams last night. It was their Super Bowl. Like, obviously, they don't want to give up. They don't want to trade for Cup. They don't want to move these pieces. Like Matthew Stafford, they're a couple years removed from winning the Super Bowl. Sean McVay's a head coach and a play caller. And when this
Stafford was thrown his way every time he was on the field. 9 targets, 7 grabs, 106 yards. Cooper Kupp didn't have a fantastic game with him being on the field. It's just a handful to game plan for those two guys. Marcus Robinson. Well, he showed up when those guys are on the field. Less attention to a guy like Marcus Robinson. And I know we chatted a lot about Derrick Henry on this show, and touchdown machine gets all the touchdowns. But how about Kyron Williams? I said this yesterday. We had Alec Lewis on the show, covers the Vikings for the Athletic, and we talked about the game plan to stop the Vikings. And he didn't even really want to talk about Puka. He wanted to talk about Kyron Williams, and rightfully so, because Kyron Williams has a touchdown in every single game this season. I said yesterday I thought he was the most disrespected back in fantasy football, especially when we heard the nonsense about him returning kicks. And by the way, he recovered the onside kick last night. He's got good hands, so and he's used in all situations. We need the over 17.5 rushing attempts on this show. It's at 18 plus in 6 of 7 games this year, and 11 of 12 dating back to last year. It really wasn't that easy. He has been an absolute workhorse on the ground. So you have him with Stafford, who threw 4 passing touchdowns, and Kupp, and you're right. They are in this thing because when you look at the West, you see the Seahawks at 4-3, underdogs at home against the Bills. You have the Cardinals at 3-4, a tough matchup against the Dolphins. We'll give a lot of love to a company here today. And then the Rams now 3-4, and the Niners going through some things at 3-4, welcoming the Dallas Cowboys to town. And San Fran, of course, with CMC, there's some positive reports from CMC head-to-head. Kittle, Debo questionable, Jamar Jennings questionable, didn't practice all week. They're short-handed. That's a really, really appealing game on both sides. But yeah, and LA's in this, and that's the vibes I got watching. I was feeling Minnesota yesterday until I started hearing, Puka, they are just going all in to win this game. And if they didn't, then we're talking about them differently here.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, 2 of my rules of thumb are, don't make money back in the road team on Thursday night football, even against it when you think that they are the better team. And I saw a stat, it might have been our boy Mike Florio, friend of the program, that said teams are 1-11 against the spread the last time if they have just like insurance or Lions. Yeah, after they get their estimate that they don't do well against the spread, and that played out. And let me tell you something, without Puka and without Cooper Kupp, what other team in the NFL would be just coasting along without their 2 top understandable, quite frankly, and that's from a fantasy standpoint. Is there another team in the NFL that has 2 wideouts that are borderline 1-2s and a RB1 in their offense? I can't necessarily think of one right off the bat, and so that makes me double down on your point that when Philadelphia, this right one of the tops in the league, and listen, now they're healthy, and like you said, that division is really kind of jumbled up around 500. The Rams currently are plus 550 as the 4th choice in that division, the last choice in that division. And like we said, with a tough schedule in the division this week, there is a universe. Rams play Seahawks next week, but that game, much like I was talking about Bills Jets a couple of weeks back, could be for first place in the NFC West.
Yeah, absolutely. To answer your question, I'll leave it homer here. I think Devontae Smith is close to a wide receiver 1, but him, AJ, and Saquon. If Collins was healthy, maybe we're talking about Joe Mixon, Nico, and Stephon Diggs.
But I think the Kua or Cup, whichever way you put there, is above, say, Diggs, and quite frankly, above Devontae Smith in my opinion. But yeah,
I'm with you. That's why I think that this offense is absolutely lethal. And they went toe-to-toe last year with the Lions. That was a game that they almost won at the very end. And we talked about
the last night, right?
The Lions and how much they impressed us. And they went into Baltimore last year and won a few teams that beat the Ravens, pushed that game to overtime, and won there as well. So offensively, I think that they can hang with anybody. Defensively, I still think that they have some issues, and we can transition here to Sam Darnold and the Vikings. I get it, that game was on the road, and they just played the Lions, and you're statistic, but I remember the conversation on this show a couple of weeks ago on where the Minnesota Vikings rank, and the debates between them versus the Baltimore Ravens, who would we take on a neutral game, on a neutral field? It's not even close here. So Vikings lost 2 straight. They're in
arguably the hottest and toughest division in the NFL. Do you feel like they are in trouble, or is that just, hey, you know, what we talk about, a must-win situation for the Rams, and they took care of business? I don't know where you're at with the Vikings, but big loss.
Yeah, it is a big loss, and now that's 2 for them in 5 days. But I think it's a divisional matchup against Detroit. They lose against the Rams here. Quite frankly, Rams could be a wild card tiebreaker kind of thing down the road. And I think, listen, Sam Darnold started the season with such a great completion percentage. Sam Darnold started the season with a, sixth choice of the MVP candidate. We realize he can't be eligible for comeback player of the year, but maybe, the league is adjusting on some level, right? There's a reason some of these fringe starters kind of turn into pumpkins after a couple of weeks. And quite frankly, yes, I think it was a face mask, but I think Sam Darnold is what we have to talk about if you want to know the truth. I know he didn't complete 50% of his passes against the Jets a couple of weeks ago, has started to throw some picks. I know we were hyping him up because, he had Jefferson, he had Addison, he has Hawkinson kind of on the horizon. But quite frankly, I think there's now other guys that may be better QB2s moving forward. Like if you're in the Superflex league, I'll tell you the truth, Chris. I'm starting Russell Wilson over Sam Darnold. I'm starting Stafford over Sam Darnold. I'm even consider a guy like Drake May from what I've seen, where his arrow is pointing up and the Darnold arrow is pointing down. I think people who kind of, bought into Darnold and are running down on a week-to-week basis in Superflex, they need to see if there are other better options.
Drives, 2 touchdowns. He will get TJ Hawkinson back next week. And when he joined the show yesterday, he gave us the inside scoop that he didn't expect TJ Hawkinson to play. It was later ruled out that he did expect him to suit up next week. Got the Colts and the Giants next week for Minnesota. So those are 2 pretty good matchups, and maybe some bounce back there for Sam Darnold. But you're spot on with Matthew Stafford being 4 passing touchdowns yesterday. He's not obviously not mobile. He's not going to give you that floor, but we just talked about those weapons and the run game that they have. And again, I think the defense is pretty leaky, but that puts him into situations to pass the football for them to keep, the pedal on the ground and just go. Yeah, absolutely. So with those 4 passing touchdowns, every team in the NFL has a passing touchdown in the month of October, except for 1. I don't know if you know. I want to hear from people. Hit us up. Feel like you know the answer. Maybe we'll answer your Saturday question. We probably will anyways, just joking there. But love to hear from you guys to see what team you think is the only team in the NFL that has yet to throw a passing touchdown in the month of October. 888-963-2682, 888-963-2682. We will take your Saturday questions today. We have a poll for Series X updates.
Yes, we do. We got a big Week 8 slate on Sunday. The question is, which of the games here in Week 8 on Sunday are you most looking forward to seeing? We've got a matchup between the Eagles and the Bengals, which I think is very interesting. Falcons, Bucks in the NFC South. Obviously with Tampa Bay down their wide receivers. Sunday Night Football, an interesting one as well. San Francisco and Dallas, kind of a big time, old school America's team kind of big matchup there. And then the Bills and the Seahawks, which I think a lot of people could think are fun, especially for DFS purposes. What do you think the people are saying here, Chris? It's pretty tight up the top.
I think the people may be saying Niners and Cowboys. I think people should be saying Eagles and Bengals, right? It's a big game for both teams. Like, how good is the Philly defense having played, the Giants and the Browns lately, and on the same side, the Bengals have had recent matchups with those 2 teams as well. So I think it's going to be a shootout. I think both teams are going to be able to score some points. Like Devontae Smith, the bounce back. T. Higgins has been great. Chase, AJ, Saquon. I think there's a lot of greatness inside this game. Both quarterbacks is top 5 quarterbacks this week in fantasy football rankings. And I don't know. I'm not completely sold on the Eagles defense. So we'll see how. And both Bengals as well. So we'll see if those 2 teams are giving out some big plays. That would be mine.
All right, fair enough. You nail it once again, Chris. Cowboys and Niners are leading the poll with 33-34% of the vote, but right behind them, with about 31 or 32% of the vote, is Eagles and Bengals, and that's what I voted for as well, because I also believe whoever wins this game, Chris, between the Eagles and the Bengals, like, the NFL universe, the narrative will be like, oh, they're back. They're back. They're actually contenders again, whether it be in the NFC or in the AFC. Big shout out for a guy, Tim Taylor, who writes Commanders Bears as a write-in option. I actually would put that in the poll if I expected Jaden Daniels to play, and then we could have had that Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, number 1 and 2 pick kind of matchup, which I think would have moved the needle a little bit more. But
ask Alex too later on, because a lot of these matchups have high totals and there could be some DFS goodness. So maybe we'll ask him about those matchups in terms of stacking a little bit.
Yeah, he's hanging by. I wanted to talk to him about more a strategy conversation with him and how he attacks like some of these lopsided spreads. Like there are some pretty big favorites this week. Lions are 11-point favorites. We have the Broncos 10-point favorites and the Chiefs 10-point favorites. So I wanted to just get his feelings on attacking those sort of games. So we're going to continue to follow some of these practice reports. You mentioned Jake Daniels hasn't practiced all week. He's considered a game time decision against the Bears. St. Flowers returned to practice today. Lucky last night, Irving, there was reports that he wouldn't play, but he did return to practice today, so that is a good sign. Keep an eye on that. Curtis Samuel with the neck injury is ruled out. Travis Etienne is a game time decision. Najee Spears limited this week. Debo, we mentioned, limited all week. That's Sunday Night Football. Hopefully we hear something before then about Debo. Jennings is questionable. He missed practice all week. Ricky Pearsall's a guy that may actually fall into some more snaps and targets here in this game. George Kittle limited with a foot injury. He's questionable. I do expect him to power through. And then we did hear some news this week about CMC, quote, a very good chance from being Rappaport of NFL Network that he suits out week 10. We'll see about that. Continue to follow some of these practice reports. Deontay Johnson's the other guy there who's dealing with a rib injury. Does expect to play, but a very bad spot for him against a Broncos team that's only led 2 wide receiver touchdowns this season with a league low, or a league best rather, 5.5 yards per attempt. No, Bryce Young. Bryce Young is center. We have a Denver defense. Bryce Young coming back from the center. I know. And I heard you, well, I saw on Twitter talk about Tua as well, right? Looks like he's going to play clear to play. He stays healthy.
I hope so too. And listen, we talk about it all week. I actually think it's great things for Hill, great things for Waddle, good things for Chan as well. I just hope, I just wish the man the best. I hope he stays healthy.
Any guesses on who that team? Does he have to throw past a touchdown?
Yeah, I was thinking like it's your way of dealing if it was the Jets, but no, I'm going to go with, could it be Miami? Could it be with that Miami Dolphins offense has been without Tua and how they can kind of get it back? I guess my official guess would be the Miami Dolphins.
Well, I'm not going to tell you if you're right or wrong, because I want to hear from the people, and feeling like just giving away some stuff today. So you guys get this answer right, FTM package, or FTM package.
I didn't know we could do that. We can do it with a package. Let's do it.
We're just going to do it. I don't even know if I have a crew or not. It's just going to happen. 888-963-2682, 888-963-2682. We'll take your calls after Alex Whipple joins us, and he's in here next. So there's going to be a couple opportunities to get your questions in. We're going to answer them. So we'll talk to Alex about the Week 8 slate here in DFS, and then we'll answer your questions when we're done. We'll see if Alex was like, geez, for sure, making it away. He's in here next. I'm Team Fantasy continues with Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio.
The UEFA Champions League is back on Sirius XM FC, and this year it's bigger than ever. The chance featuring soccer's most iconic clubs as they battle down for European supremacy. League phase to the final. The Champions League is on Sirius XM FC 157 and the all-new Sirius XM app. You know what I think? I think people will vote if they knew how it affected their lives. Is your kid going to a good school? Is your mom getting the health care that she needs? When you think about retirement and how much roots it costs, well, it's time to move. Vice President Harris is already making changes in our community. Time to incorporate Social Security, investing in young people. You have to vote. That's all that makes sense. I'll be at the polls on Tuesday. Will you?
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Wait for my first president. For the first time in Howard Stern Show history, an exclusive group of players have the once-in-a-lifetime chance to watch a live broadcast of the show being put together in Howard's iconic New York City studio. It's selected. Also meet some of your favorite staffers that take a tour of the legendary back offices, store showings, and interviews on downtown birthday offices. SiriusXM.com/votes-NYC for locals. Brought to you by Steven Singer, longtime sponsor, fan, and jewelry expert. I8StevenSinger.com. Hi, I'm Steven Singer. Yeah, that's me, the I8 Steven Singer guy. People ask me all the time, what does this mean, I8 Steven Singer? Well, maybe listen to the reason. At my store, we don't play pricing games. We wouldn't treat our friends like that. We only have one price.
data in our Discord community where you can chat one-on-one with our fantasy football experts. Fantasy Plus is 12 months of premium fantasy football coverage. Crush your opponents with FTN Fantasy Plus. That's FTNFantasy.com. Again, that's FTNFantasy.com.
This is Gerald Owens, and you're listening to Sirius XM's Fantasy Sports Radio, home of fantasy sports. Here's what's happening on Sirius XM.
Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins face Connor McDavid and the Oilers in Edmonton tonight at 9 Eastern. Listen to the game on Sirius XM NHL Network Radio Channel 91 and on the all-new Sirius XM app. That's a good time as well. So we have 2.5 shots, -120 against the Pens. But Alex Blickel, super sharp. Alex Blickel 1 on the Twitter machine, doing a lot of NBA stuff for us as well this week. The season did tip off, but we want to talk some football here with him today and dive into the Week 8 slate from a DFS standpoint. Alex, always appreciate your time. I had a strategy question just kind of off the hop on like how you target games. And of course, like, looking to Vegas is one thing, right? They build big buildings. They know what's going on over there. High totals, certainly something to take a look at. But when I see a slate like this, and I see a lot of these massive favorites, the Lions are double-digit favorites, the Chiefs are double-digit favorites, the Broncos are double-digit favorites. Like, do you shy away from those type of games, or you feel like they won't be as competitive, or you feel like, hey, this is a team that's favored by almost 2 touchdowns here. I'm going to roll with that team and maybe take a bring back. You want to kind of explain that to the new people getting into daily fantasy sports? It's like, for example, you'll probably be better at explaining it to me than me, but for example, if, let's say, Calvert-Lewin's done nothing. Hopkins is not there, but let's say the Lions, they scored 30. They're scoring 30 every week. Feel like they abandoned the run game. They're a tough team to run on. The bring back option, if you were stacking Detroit, would be to get involved with maybe a pass catcher on the Titan side of things. How do you treat those games that just seem like lopsided favors?
It's a great question. The first thing to say is I think there are kind of 2 ways that you can approach it. The first is to understand the value of the bring back, where what you're saying is, okay, if the Lions do have a great offensive game, and if they are forced to throw all game instead of just kind of running the ball throughout the entire fourth quarter, maybe even bringing in some backups to soak away the blowout, it means that somebody on the other side is outperforming their expectations. And that's the big reason for the bring back. And so if someone's going to outperform expectations, Ridley might be the most likely, but that's sort of the hypothesis of the bring back. On the other hand, one thing that I'm always looking for when I'm choosing a game stack or just any stack is I want the high pass rate. I want a fast-paced game. And when you're going to these heavy favorites, that's when you kind of run into the issue of, more often than not, if they do outperform their own expectations offensively, it means that the game is going to be really slow. It means that they're just going to try and soak away the entire second half. So if you want 4 quarters of production and elevated production throughout those 4 quarters, it does tend to benefit you to try and find those games that are going to be competitive, where you get that 4th quarter where it's this team scores to take the lead, now next team scores to take the lead, and every single time there's an offensive possession, the offense is forced to try and push the ball to score.
Yeah, that's interesting, Alex, right? On the one hand, you had like maybe a game script you could trust and believe in going into the game, but like you said, a team that's up big may try to park the bus, and you may not have as many plays called. Another way to look at it, though, Alex, is obviously, as Nene said, you look to Vegas for some high totals. So I see Philadelphia, Cincinnati, which may fit the bill in terms of 4 quarters of action. Buffalo, Seattle may fit the bill of 4 quarters of action. We know how much the Seahawks pass the ball, and without DK, could it be concentrated a little bit more with guys like JSN and Tyler Lockett? Is it those two? I see also Packers Jags at almost 54 total. So let's apply the logic. You know, we're teaching people how to fish. Not just give them a fish for week 8. What is one of the games that you are stacking?
You kind of hit it there. Philly-Cincinnati is so incredibly enticing because it's not just that I think they could be in that type of fourth quarter game where each offense needs to score every time they touch the ball. But you're not going to get much more explosive plays than you will from A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Jamar Chase, right? Both sides of that game is just an explosive play waiting to happen, which last week we talked about how valuable that can be. Think about it. If A.J. Brown scores a 60-yard touchdown, not only are you getting all those points, but now it means Jamar Chase and that offense gets the ball down right away so that they can start producing again. So those explosive plays are still valuable to Chase. The issue with that game, obviously, is that if you're starting, say, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase, that is about all the salary that you can spend, right? You better be finding a lot of value around that. But the flip side of that is, because of that, it's going to be really low. So it's a lot to balance, and essentially it just comes down to how much value you think you can find. But there is some value to be had on this slate, particularly when it comes to the Tampa Bay offense, if we want to go there next.
Yeah, let's go there, because I actually wanted to bring up the Bucs of doing Baker Mayfield, the second in the NFL pass attempts. He's had a really good season. Of course, he's down now. His top 2 wide receivers, I mean, K-Dot's coming off a phenomenal game. He's been relevant regardless of the status of some of these wide receivers like Evans and like Chris Godwin. And then we saw in fantasy, one of the hot waiver wire pickups was Jalen McMillan. People were opening up their entire wallet and budget and spending on Jalen McMillan at $3,700, and you have Sterling Shepard there at $3,800, who has the rapport with Baker Mayfield. These guys have already hooked up, their Oklahoma days, and this year with a touchdown or 2. And then you have Palmer. Like, all these guys are sub 4K, along with Otten, who's $3,500. And then, Bucky Irving is questionable. He did practice today in limited fashion. We'll see his status. But you have Rashad White, who's been a big player through the air as well. How are you treating the Bucs?
This is another really, really interesting game. And I think you can also approach this from a lot of ways. The first thing I'll say is I think Kate Otten is going to be the most popular tight end on the slate. He might end up being one of the most players on the slate, most owned players on the slate, period. In which case, I would be very interested in fading him, and that probably means going instead to one of his receivers, whether it's McMillan, Trey Palmer, Sterling Shepard. I think has a chance to step right into the Chris Godwin role. By the way, I think just his skill set fits the Godwin role more so than the other guys. So basically every single guy on that offense is now very much in play, and we already saw this Tampa Bay Atlanta matchup explode once this year, so it definitely has the chance to do that again. I don't know, I haven't actually looked at the spread, but if Tampa is one of the bigger underdogs this week, I think they also fit the bill of the type of underdog that I like to look for, where when they get down, they are number 1, perfectly willing to just drop back and throw the ball all game long, and number 2, they have good enough quarterback play where they can actually do so effectively, right? Like, if Tennessee gets dropped way behind, we don't expect Mason Rudolph to throw successfully. That's just a recipe for disaster for that offense. Baker Mayfield can play that role and get the team back in the game. So, just like we saw in the first matchup, I think that game could explode, and we also have the pieces in that game, whether it's Otten or going to even multiple of those wide receivers without Baker Mayfield, to fit in a stack like Philly Cincinnati.
I just want to jump in here, Dave, and follow up. +2.5, the Bucs at home, so slight dogs at home there. You mentioned Otten being popular, and I'm sure McMillan will be too, just from a fantasy football perspective. And there's buzz around this guy and the pickup. Everybody is aware that he's one of the hot pickups. Are you more, another strategy question, are you more willing to fade those guys and that are going to be popular, that you feel over at FTN? We have projections, we have the GPP scores, you have the ownership projections, and the fantasy projections, but I feel like you're crushing it compared to other places in the industry. The projections, the ownership projections have been on point. But what makes you fade? Are you always that type that's like, hey man, even in a smash spot, Kate Otten could get 10 targets, I can't play him because his ownership is going to be high? Like, it's a fine line, and it's scary, for people that are in there, like, I want to play Derrick Henry against the worst rushing defense in all of football. Not this week, but that's just an example. Like, how do you treat those players who you feel will pop off, and you just have to fade them because everybody's going to be on them, and if they don't pop, then that's where you're really ahead of the rest of the people in the contest.
I think this is the type of question that a lot of people trying DFS for the first time find so intimidating, right? It's like there's this fear of, if I fade him, that guy's going to go off and my lineup is sunk. I'm not going to have any fun watching the games. It's so awesome that we have the GPP scores, because what they do such a great job of is actually taking in all these different variables at once, right? Like, what's his price? How likely is he actually to succeed? How likely is he to fail? And if I don't use him, is there another tight end that I can go to that has a good chance of winning? Or that nature. And the GPP score is doing a much better job of that than I think I personally could ever do, just thinking through it myself, and so it's nice to have those to kind of lean on. And I am very confident the GPP scores this week are going to tell us to fade Cade Otton. Not because Otton is less likely than other tight ends to succeed, it's just he's not so much more likely to succeed than all of these other tight ends that can pivot to. Like, I think a phenomenal play this week is going to be Sam Laporta. If we could point to one thing about this Lions offense this year that has been different than last, that has contributed to Laporta's decreased production, it's been Jameson Williams' emergence. It's just not there right now. So I think Laporta could come out and have a fantastic week. We already talked about how well their offense sets up if they get pushed at all by Tennessee. So I love the pivot to Laporta. There are also some other tight ends I think we can go to pretty confidently.
Hey, Alex, talk to me about how do you project Miami Dolphins this week? It's interesting because I like the matchup against Arizona. They're bottom 10 in a lot of pass defensive categories that you get over on our stats hub. And what we've seen out of Miami recently is literally one of the worst offenses in football, right? Like averaging like 11 or 12 points. But with Tua coming back, all of a sudden, do you just believe that this offense reverts back to the top 3 offense they were last year? Tua led the NFL in passing last year? Or is it something you have to see with your own eyes before you're willing to go there? How do you project Tua? How do you project guys like Tyreek and Waddle as well?
This is so hard to do this week. It really is. And it's not just projecting them, like, actually what they're going to do on the field, but how is the field going to think about these guys, right? What's their ownership going to be? That part has been even tougher for me this week than projecting them actually, what their football production is going to be, I think. So I think the biggest difference with this offense has been how much longer it takes for the quarterback to get the ball out when Tua's not on the field. To me, like, that's what Tua brings to this offense. It's getting the ball out quickly, whether that's 15 yards downfield to Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, whether it's on a quick screen to Devon Achane, whatever the case may be, he gets rid of the ball so quickly, and it leads to getting these dynamic speedsters the ball in space, and that's when they have all their explosiveness. So my thought is that Devon Achane is going to be one of the most popular players on the slate. I certainly think Tyreek Hill is. We're not necessarily seeing those signs around the industry yet, so I think we're going to have a very aggressive stance on Achane's projected ownership, which makes me not really want to play it, but boy, their prices have come so far down. If they were at these prices before Tua got hurt, they'd be each 50+% on the slate. So it's going to be kind of tough to either fade them or play them knowing that they might be 50% on.
One thing I had though, Chris, is also, as for Stats Hub at FTN, Arizona only 43 pressures on the year. That is the 3rd fewest in the NFL. So it's interesting to me when Alex talks about, like, if the quarterback can stand and deliver from the pocket, because Tua may even have more time, and we know about his accuracy. So I think that even bolsters the case there for some of the Dolphins receivers. Go ahead, Minister.
Yeah, no, you're good. I mean, it's a good thing to bring up, and also with Arizona, I mean, that allowed the league high in terms of yards per attempt and the second highest quarterback completion percentage again. So it is a really good spot for the Dolphins, and of course, there's probably some risk with playing Tua potentially, if he's under some sort of hit, who knows, but that's all part of it. And with Tyreek Hill at 7K, I mean, there's a good 8 wide receivers. I mean, there's a couple that are hurt, of course, Godwin and Evans, but there's a handful of wideouts that have a steeper price tag than him, and even from the betting market, like, he opened up at 81.5 receiving yards. This is a guy that lives in the low 90s at his peak in the mid to high 90s for Tyreek Hill. Really liked your thought process with the tight ends as well, because people may be like, why would I play Sam Laporte? You know, and we like see this guy ranked outside the top 12. K-Dot and Joker's a top 5 tight end, but again, recency bias is a thing. There's no J-Mo. His one touchdown he had this season, J-Mo was actually on the sideline. It was a trick play, but I do expect him to be involved, and the ownership is perfect, right? And you're saying where he may not be highly owned, and he bumps off there ahead of the curve there. Is there another game you like? Because I feel like maybe Green Bay's offense may come with a lot of ownership. Like this Jaguars team can't stop anything. We've seen it all the time. London prime time, they've copped it up to wide receivers, to quarterbacks, even to running backs. But I feel like it's tough for people to invest maybe on a Packers wide receiver, given that Jane Reed's had a couple dud games, or when Duff's been nice, and there's been some sort of rotation over the past couple of weeks between Wicks and Washington. How do you feel about the Packers and anybody in Jacksonville catches your eye? Maybe it's Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. leading the way right now. He scores, so good call there, Chris. The entire game is really enticing. Jacksonville's playing a lot of man coverage and they're giving up a lot of explosive plays. That's kind of a recipe for success on the Green Bay side. And then we have Jacksonville, Brian Thomas Jr. projects so well, and Evan Ingram has a phenomenal matchup according to our DVOA adjusted fantasy points against metric. So you get like a really straightforward double stack on the Jacksonville side if you want it. And then one other thing before we leave Miami totally, I just want to bring up the fact Raheem Mostert is going to be 1% on probably whatever it ends up being. It's going to be low. 19 carries against New England, 11 against Indianapolis. He has run the ball pretty well, and he's always a candidate to vulture some touchdowns. So one of the ways that Achane and Tyreek Hill could fail in this game is that they actually do move the ball well. They both have solid games, but then Raheem Mostert scores 3 touchdowns and wins the whole slate. So Mostert is going to be somebody that I have interest in.
Yeah, Alex, earlier on you mentioned that, Philly Cincinnati could be enticing, but that it was expensive, right? With Chase, AJB, one of the quarterbacks. And so if you go that route, you need some bargain basement kind of values to wrap around that. Tell us who some of those guys could be. Like, do you believe in any of these hot waiver wire ads, like a Cedric Tillman or a McMillan from this week? Or are there any other guys that are really cheap that you think are going to overperform expectations that you kind of need, especially if you're going with one of these high-end stacks?
This Baltimore pass defense has been more vulnerable than people realize, and we know Jameis is going to sling it. So I do think Tillman is a decent play. You can go right back to Elijah Moore. One thing I'll say, I don't necessarily think he counts as like a bargain basement type play, but Christian Watson, 5,200, Green Bay. We just talked about it. A lot of man coverage, a lot of explosive plays that Jacksonville's allowing. That's Christian Watson's music, right? And so as low of a floor as you can find, he might catch 0 balls on 2 targets. He also might have 2 catches on the day, and both are 50-plus yarders, including a touchdown. And now he's suddenly the best wide receiver play, around $5,000 on the entire slate. So lots of explosive upside there.
Yeah, I love it. No team has caught more passing touchdowns or fantasy points to quarterbacks than the Jags. They've got 15 passing touchdowns in the last 5 games. That's 13 TDs in his last 4. So it's tough to kind of pinpoint the guys, but Watson's one of those guys that can certainly break the slate. Randall may be listening and will join us in about an hour time and certainly smiling from ear to ear. Political fantastic, man. We can chop up with you all the time. We do appreciate your time on Fridays here. Why don't you tee up some of the things that you have going on over at FTK?
The thing I'd say is Zach and I are doing a show every single day at noon. It's NBA Central, but it's also going to be covering football anytime, like on a Monday or a Thursday when we've got football. We will be talking plenty of it. And we're just going through picks, right? We're going through all of the pick'em games, pick 6, prize picks, underdog, also getting into just the traditional DFS slate. So anybody who liked this segment right here is going to love everything we talk about on that show. So every single day for free and noon on the FTN Network YouTube channel.
Love it. Again, make sure you follow Alex on the Turn Machine, Alex Blickle1. Any guesses, by the way, on that team the one team who is not throwing past a touchdown in the month of October? Any guesses? There's one team that hasn't.
Miami?
That was my guess too.
Miami.
That was my guess too. Apparently we're wrong now.
Oh, I never seen this.
No.
Apparently we're giving away an FTN package for a correct answer. So
yeah, that's what it said. Hey, who knows? Maybe it's Miami. Maybe you guys are just old too. Appreciate your time there. We'll answer some questions on the other side. So get them in 888-963-2682, 888-963-2682. Continuing to follow practice reports and answer some starters and questions here next. FT Fantasy continues in Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio.
Sirius XM Triumph Run.
All right,
Get real
practice.
answers with Dr. Laura.
No nonsense advice.
Gotta figure out who's in, who's not.
Marriage, kids.
Tough love.
It happens. It's not a phrase anybody uses when they take responsibility.
We got any fantasy footballers on the channel? Anybody on fantasy football on the channel?
Dr. Laura, plus Megan Kelly, Glenn Beck, Nancy Grace, and Dave Ramsey, all on Triumph.
So it sounds like DK Metcalf is out and Deontay Johnson's out. So I gotta do some maneuvers.
Nobody brings you the excitement of Formula One racing like Sirius XM. Hear every thrilling lap of a worldwide championship chase. Plus comprehensive pre- and post-race coverage. That was the best race I've ever seen. The 2024 season rolls on Sunday afternoon at the Mexican Grand Prix. Our live coverage begins at 3 Eastern with Lights Out Racing at 4 Eastern on ESPN Extra Channel 81 and the all-new Sirius XM app.
October is ending, but I want to keep the fall fun going. So I shop Kohl's lowest prices of the season. I saved 30% on top active brands like Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour. Then I got my kids some boots for under $22. Sort of 50% off Food Network favorite must-haves and current home cash. Yep, it doesn't get better than Kohl's. Flex Styles offers an October 27th. Two books now apply to Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour. See store for the other details.
Football season is heating up, and Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action while watching football. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. The app is really simple to use. Pick 2 or more players across any sport, pick more or less on their projection, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Prize Picks even invented the flex play, so you can still cash out if one of your picks doesn't hit. Not only that, but Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy app with injury insurance. If one of your players goes down in the first half, Prize Picks doesn't count it as a loss. Download the Prize Picks app today and use Code Fantasy and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's Code Fantasy on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks.
Yeah, we locked off the hot dogs. What are you gonna do? What we're gonna eat with the ribs tonight? Mac and cheese.
Yep.
I could probably have mashed potatoes.
Yep. Or I can knock off the rest of my macaroni salad.
Fantasy Sports Radio, Channel 87, and on the Sirius XM app.
Everything you love about Fantasy Sports Radio, but on social media. Find us at Sirius XM Fantasy on Twitter and Instagram.
Quiet your mind, reduce your stress, and rest easy. With channels designed to help you fall asleep easier and faster. Sing
Whatever we're doing.
white noise of a storm
Right
shower
now.
on Rainfall Radio. Fade out
Take it.
to the soothing sounds of the Sleep Channel, or drift off to nature sounds with forest dreams. Find them all in the Sirius XM app, included in all trials and popular plans.
I believe I can put Tyler Lockett at DK Metcalf's spot. And I might be able to put Nick.
His
Little baby Christmas tree.
Can you go get the school from here? Or your ducks?
So we'll see. We'll see. And I will say this: Aaron Rodgers had by far the best game of the season.
Go back up.
Patriots, so we get that
But always go
matchup.
back up.
We can start rolling. And what I'm saying is a rough middle tier in the AFC.
Sticking with the Jets, Alan Lazard will be time decision week 8. I think Jake and I differ a little bit on Alan Lazard. I don't feel like there's going to be any consistency in his game moving forward, just with the addition of Devontae Adams. He got 9 targets last week. Garrett Wilson got his 9, and Brees Hall got his 9 too. There may be some touchdowns. Show it to Phil, maybe call a couple on prime time. We'll get all kinds of
down there, but
Right.
Roger schedule. Oh, there are. Yeah, there is. So next week we come back and get it.
Oh, fire.
There you go.
that was a fire truck.
We'll start to be ready to go in a couple touchdowns in that game, but there's some better options for you this week. A lot of wire pieces that we talked about this week that would roll out over Blizzard, like McMillan and Cedric Tillman. Those are two guys that have right now.
Well, let's see if you guys can I-spy the Oregon Ducks stadium.
Shane Steichen says that Taylor is, quote, tracking very well to play this week against the Texans. Is it as
Eugene,
simple
right?
as, okay, Taylor's back?
Springfield, Eugene, yeah.
Springfield, Eugene, Oregon.
I have him penciled in at
We're looking for the
16 behind
Oregon Ducks stadium.
against Washington. I have Rashad White high. I thought that Bucky would be out. I would definitely play Taylor over White. I think even regardless if
Pop's favorite team, by the way.
or doesn't play, gives on each
Well,
end. Kareem Hunt.
I don't know. I like Oregon
Another
State.
week of Jordan Mason. Like how high?
How you gonna put the Oregon State?
Taylor in the rankings.
I'm saying I like Oregon State.
Again, that's simple. Just putting them out there.
Yeah,
I think I like Oregon a little bit more.
You know, John
There you go.
Taylor's up and active, especially with Anthony Richardson on the center, right? Like Joe Flacco, as we've been talking about, right? Joe Flacco's going to pull up 35, 40 times a game. Anthony Richardson is going to put it up like 25 times a game and only complete about 13 passes, right? So yeah, I do think that Jonathan Taylor goes right into your lineup. You have him ranked as an RB2 that's still in starting territory, and quite frankly, I would have him over some of the other guys that you have, specifically Jahmyr Gibbs. I was going to ask you about Gibbs vis-a-vis Montgomery because of the fact that, like we said, Detroit is a 10-point favorite, and it's Monty who's the hammer, right? Like, if they are up 24-6 and late in the third quarter, I think it's Monty that gets more snaps than Gibbs. So all that being said, yes, I think you run out Taylor as long as he's active, and it looks like he's trending in that direction.
Dallas Goddard not spotted at practice today. I would count on him suiting up with a hamstring injury, and then also Jerome Ford, who's ruled out. So we're going to keep an eye on absolutely everything here. Dorian Thompson Robinson is going to back up James.
All these stupid trees in the way.
James is back. Right,
I
let's
tell you
go
what,
lines.
okay, I mean, Uncle made a good point. You could throw in that Baltimore defense. A lot of it is garbage time action. We know J-Mo's tendency to throw. I mean, Winston could be sneaky, especially if they are down and kind of in a negative game script. They're going to be, you know, dumping it off to Chubb. And Njoku, I think, is live. Tillman is one of the better waiver wire pickups. I think Tillman is interesting as a basement play in DFS, or actually a flex play, given the game script and given Winston under center.
Oh, and the Panthers ruled out the offense. So there was a report I saw earlier that he was going to apply for more pressure. I mean, this guy's going to have his hands.
You guys don't get spooked. I'm getting ready to move the camera to the right.
As a knockout, you
So
probably
y'all can I-spy the Oregon Ducks theater.
Got 200 people on here. Hit the like button.
I'll
see the top of it.
These questions will have some more time to answer them. So I see the phone lines are lit up. Just hang on 3-4 minutes and we'll wrap
All right, guys, we're looking for the Oregon Ducks stadium over here somewhere.
College basketball's winningest Coach Goes 101 is Coach K. It's more than just an interview. I always love our conversation. Coach K is back for another season on Sirius XM, talking with the biggest names.
I see the top of it. It's shining at, but
Girls can, exceed me.
they should have that thing on display.
And beyond. Hall of Fame quarterback. And my greatest takeaway has been the relationship. Basketball and beyond with Coach K. Thursday nights at 6 Eastern. College Sports Radio Channel 84 and the Sirius XM app. This week on Let's Go with Bill Belichick, Max Crosby, Peter King, and me, Jim Gray. We got Tom Brady out here with us. Look at how the Chiefs are winning. Frank Thomas does this all the time.
Good.
We're not trying to be perfect. We're just
Nice
trying
little
to
lunch, right?
Nice little break.
Always have to trust Patrick.
Oh, it's not lunchtime?
On the line, which is really what great quarterbacks do. You gotta believe that he just
What y'all having for lunch? Anybody on here want to tell us what you having for lunch?
Let's Go, now available exclusively on the all-new
Or dinner might be dinner time where some people are.
Money Trading Stock.
Like I think where Devin is going to go 7 o'clock.
Listen up.
Roll call. What y'all having for dinner or lunch?
Right now, I will
If you're in the UK, you probably having dinner right now.
It'll show you that you can do
I think they call it supper.
Supper.
This is the method.
Like a little T. Williams supper.
And 70% of them never traded before. But
That
they
was the
all
worst
started
English
by going
accent
down.
ever.
I've used my TSL method for 25 years to make a full-time income, enjoy lifestyle freedom. So if other trading systems let you down, it's probably
Shouts
because
out to
they're
Alex
just
Johnson.
too complicated.
Beautiful
My method
country.
is simple and it works so well because
Say
we ride the
beautiful country,
coattails of
yes.
big money on Wall Street. And when my rules line up, 75% of the time, the price
Go ahead and double tap that screen there, Ali Johnson.
Call my office
Best offense window ever.
Best offense window ever. If you agree, double tap.
How did you run?
If you're enjoying the scene, go ahead and double tap that screen. Yeah. Since the 80s. Where you going, my white man?
Where you going with the back?
The only team that is yet to throw a passing touchdown in the month of October. And what's your question?
Is it the Cleveland Browns?
It is not.
Alex Johnson, shout out to McKay, Australia. She's in McKay, Australia.
All right. I got a quarterback.
Put another shrimp on the Barbie there, mate.
My QBs are Purdy and Tua.
Australia is in the house.
My flex.
Hello, Australia from down under.
That's not a right.
And the quarterback is Jalen Hurts.
How do you got Monte? I know that maybe they'll be down a couple guys in San Fran. I think if you hear anything, maybe Sunday morning, Debo is not going to play, John Jennings is not going to play, I will change my tune to get Ricky Pearsall. But I think Devontae Smith is in a bounce back spot. They didn't need to throw the football last week against the Giants. They ran all over them, took some shots with AJ. They're going to have to throw the football this weekend against the Bengals. Joe Burrow company's going to be able to push the pace. It's a fantasy-friendly game, and I think we're both on to it here, Dave.
Yeah, for me, it would be Tua Tagovailoa. I like the matchup. We talked about it earlier in the hour against the Arizona Cardinals. You know, they don't rush the quarterback. Completion percentage allowed. And I think we are going to see normal Miami Dolphins offense. I think it's a big number for the Dolphins. Hill, Waddle, and Tua. So I would start Tua over this week as well, Justin.
Let's head north of the border, West Coast, Calgary. Ben is in the house. Happy Friday. Ben, I feel like you're going to know this answer. Who is the only team that has yet to throw a passing touchdown in the month of October?
Hey guys, yeah, thanks for taking the call. I'm going to guess the New York Giants. I have Malik. He's been out for a couple of weeks. I don't think they throw a touchdown pass. That's my zero.
A lot of field goals.
It's a good guess. Daniel Jones on his butt.
Alex Johnson said, I don't catch eyes very much. It's 4 a.m.
Yeah, it's all right, Ben. Big hours.
Oh, a logger truck. Yeah, that was a logger truck.
Let's go. Get into this one.
I'm rolling 6-1. So I called in. I dropped Nancy Richardson way too high, and I was fortunate to pick up Baker after week 2. He's got me to where I'm at, but with losing his weapon, like, I'm wondering, like, Tua's out there, Mahomes is out there. Is there anyone you're looking at, or you just keep rolling with Baker, even though he's
been good, Alex Johnson? How you been?
Weapons there. I'm kind of worried about it, honestly.
Well, first of all, Ben, Discord and getting down with the crew. If you are not FTN show, to get yourself a little bit of a discount. Listen, I'm a big Baker Mayfield fan, and I know there's no Evans. I know there's no Godwin. But the man still is responsible for the most touchdowns in the NFL at the quarterback position. He's still a top 5
guys
quarterback.
go ahead and double tap that screen
against Atlanta
if you like to see.
now.
You know what I mean?
Definitely not be Patrick.
Don't be me. Just double tap the screen.
I think Tua is interesting. We've been talking about this. I think they put up big time numbers. He had 337, I believe, in week 1, and it is a good matchup. So I continue to ride with Baker, but for this week and this week only, if you want to go with Tua, I'm not mad at that at all.
Yeah, you know, it's tough to hold 2 quarterbacks. It really is. But I think in your situation, you're feeling pretty good. Maybe you can game plan ahead. And it's tougher for people that are, you know, fighting to get into a playoff spot to kind of like play the matchups. You know, I think it's maybe good advice for some people that are listening. If you are in a comfortable spot, to look ahead at a defense that in week 8 that has a better matchup or a quarterback. Like I'm looking at Baker now. I'm playing him this week against Atlanta, but I don't really want to play him in week 9 at KC. I don't think I want to play in week 10 against San Fran. He has the bye week 11. But then out of the bye, he's got the Giants, the Panthers, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Cowboys, and the Panthers. And you expect Mike Evans to be back after week 11. He's probably worth holding on to.
I believe they're in the same.
But I do like a lot this week. A lot more than Baker, but you're a little bit confused there. If you can hold 2 guys, maybe you can roll Tua, and then you can have Baker in the weeks to come. But
which means Robbie,
you're in a pretty good spot there. I think just screaming at the quarterback position is something that you can go and stretch. But take a look at some of those playoff matchups. Let's head to San Diego. Sean is in the house. Happy Friday, Sean. Welcome to FTF Fantasy. You don't know the only team that has yet to throw a passing touchdown in the month of October. And what is the question for us?
Well, my guess was the Giants. I'm sorry.
No worries. Well, you're not allowed to second guess that. What do you have?
It's John with a J, by the way. So you kind of answered my question already, but I've been battling this whole week whether to start Mahomes, Dak, or Tua now. Because of my history, I've had to have 3 QBs. I wouldn't say this is a must-win of 3 and 4, but I could really use the victory this week. Sounds like Tua is where I'm leaning right now. I was wondering about your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, just jump in there again. I mean, we're going to talk a lot about Miami here in the next hour, but 8.3 yards per attempt is the highest American football, the second highest quarterback completion percentage against, 71%. I like rolling Tua out this week. I know there's a little bit of risk there, but I really like the spot for him. I think he'll be able to run the football and use some play action and take some deep shots down the field with Tyreek. I think Dak is a guy worth holding on to down the stretch of the season. Week 11, there's some really nice matchups for the Dak, but this week at San Fran, the team he's normally struggled against, I don't really want to in there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I go back to Tua. Tua is my answer on all of these. I think Miami is going to put up 30-plus points. This Arizona defense, like you said, can be had. Quite frankly, I think we almost
I like Miami too, Daddy.
High totals. I think it could be a shootout down there in South Carolina.
I do appreciate it there, John. We'll be back on the other side of the break. Mike Randall's still to come. We're going to follow some practice reports with you. We have picks and props. FTF Fantasy continues here on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio.
Jeff Mans is leading you to a fantasy football championship on Elite Sports. Weekdays at 3 p.m. Eastern.
He's easily the top waiver wire target this week. Outside, he's to the front.
Revealing weekly fantasy football rankings and daily fantasy football core 4, along with dishing out start and sit advice.
Is it must start in the ball for it?
Elite Sports. Weekdays at 3 p.m. Eastern and always on a new Sirius XM app by searching Elite.
This is for fantasy football superstar Tory Holmes. Who's the next Tory Holmes of fantasy? That's the right here. Fantasy Sports Radio. This is the Sirius XM Sports Update. The World Series.
Forgot about the tickets. I forgot about the tickets.
Oh, no, I got it.
What's the one leave on?
Oh, no, right. I got other money working right now.
Trying to just be connected to every pitch, and you're not really sure what the opposition's going to do, and you know that they're lethal when they do swing. You got to give every pitch a chance by fully committing to it, and so be it. If the ball gets hit, hopefully you take those situations and you learn from them just like you do when you have success.
Jack Clarity starts for
Shante Murray will miss up to 6 weeks after undergoing surgery for his fractured left hand. And the New York Post reports that the Rangers and forward Alexis Lafreniere are closing in on a 7-year deal worth just over $7.5 million. Lafreniere was the former top overall pick of the NHL draft back in 2020. For Sirius XM Sports, I'm Zach Mercossi. If it's happening in sports, it's happening on Sirius XM.
I just thought to say, catch up soon, boy, these people. Have a good day.
Have an amazing day.
This year, listen to FT Fantasy on Sirius
Hope you enjoyed the
Fantasy
view.
Sports Radio.
Hour number 2, FTM Fantasy here on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Chris Media and Dave Martinez here with you for the next hour. Chris feeding all the rankings and all the bets, all the picks can be found over at FTMFantasy.com. Dave Martinez at Spin Speed. Check out all those work over at FTMFantasy.com as well as the Athletic. A lot of video content for us as well. And hosting, we do NBA betting show, which launched this Wednesday. Catch that every Wednesday over at FTN Fantasy and the promo code FTN Show. Save yourself a little bit of cash. We've been talking about this over the past couple weeks. You are not out of it. Getting it from a subscriber who's like off to a healthy start, 6 W's through 7 weeks. It's great to see, but you're not out of this thing. Just take it week by week, and you just need to get to the dance. Dave Martinez, that's it. You get there, absolutely anything can happen, and I'm sure Rams fans and the Rams players themselves are feeling that way as well. They got some healthy bodies back last night. They picked up a few against the 5-1 Minnesota Vikings, and now fall to 5-2. We have questions about them now moving forward. This is kind of how it works in the NFL. What have you done for me lately? After week 2, everybody's saying that inside the top 5 in the power rankings, and now we wonder if they're even inside the top 10. I hear you, Vikings fan. I hear you. Still got a good squad, a good defensive squad. You get TJ Hawkinson back next week. Good to go. But Dave, not out of it, man. Just, things happen pretty quickly in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, I always thought that Cup was going to come back, and then it was another week or two after that, you know, so that was something of a surprise. And Puka Nakua, it means no worries. Puka Matata, 7 for 106, heavily targeted left and right, and you're so right. I mean, I can't tell you, shout out to our guy JC with the Flex.
That's how our band is very
For the last 2 years in a row, I was the number 1 seed in the regular season in the Flex League, and then, you know, you get a bye week. And both times in that bye week, I had 2 of my starters go down to season-ending injuries, right? And then not much left to be able to do with all the bad money spent already and things of that nature. So to your point, Chris, get into the dance. You never know what can happen. Especially if you're a playoff team. You have 1 or 2 guys that are capable of multiple touchdowns a day, putting up that 30 or 40 point average. You never know when it is going to happen. That's why we also have to start to look at playoff matchups, especially if you're in the top part of your standings, especially when it comes to some of these defenses and defensive matchups. As soon as the lines are over, I start to, you know, trim the back. Forget about my running back 5. Forget about my wide receiver 5 and 6. I made roster 2 defenses for the month of November and December to make sure that I've got great matchups for potential playoffs.
This is good advice, man. You know, I don't like to hold 2 defenses and 2 quarterbacks early on in the season, but I think once we get to the midway point, you're planning ahead, and it's just the 1 or 2 points can make a massive difference. You know, you don't want to roll this defense against a really good offense. You plan ahead a couple weeks. You know, you plan ahead on your bye weeks. You play the matchups at quarterback. I think stashing running backs is very important as well. We heard from Ray Davis this week of the Buffalo Bills. You can go back and listen to that interview over at FTN Fantasy on the all-new Sirius XM app. We talked about him being a good stash. We've already seen what his workload could look like if James Cook misses some time and he actually balled out against the Jets. So guys like him, Money, Vidal is another guy. If anything happened to J.K. Dobbins, he's widely available on the waiver wire. And we talked before about picking up the running backs. I think it was more Jake because the show on Mondays than on Thursdays. Easier to do on Mondays. And Yahoo will allow you to pick up that backup running back. You know, if you pick drop somebody on your bench. The same sort of thing applies to wide receivers. Like if you were, again, injuries are going to happen. We don't want them to happen. But what if you just picked up Jelani? Imagine feeling off Monday, you had an extra spot. And what if something happened to Mike Evans? You know, heading into that game, already not feeling 100% and the hamstring injury. To meet people in the waiver wire. Now I know not every league is like that, but just know your settings. You say that all the time, Dave. So understand your settings, and every league is different.
like cheese.
Double what they had 4 games earlier in the season, right? You have more options and opportunities for that. And I do think that is a smart thing, especially if you're streaming defenses. If you're streaming defenses, you can always drop the defense and, you know, depending on how your league works and if that's possible via the platform, and get, you know, that third slot wide receiver, even that backup quarterback randomly on a high-octane team, right? You're just purely on spec. And if it doesn't work out, you drop it, you pick up your extreme defense, or you pick up
You can leave it close right now, Daddy.
anyway, and you get that guy that you're going to get on the waiver wire. It's just kind of, you know, a little cheat code, and if it hits for you once per season, then there you go. Like you said, I think the McMillan thing is perfect. We never wish injury on anybody, but unfortunately, football is a violent game.
It really is. So the rankings are live over at ftmfantasy.com. There'll be a touch-up. Friday, of course, is a big day with some of these practice reports, and we'll roll through it here in just a moment. But the rankings will have another update Friday, another one probably Friday night for me anyways, personally, and then Saturday morning, and of course Sunday as well. A couple of updates leading up to kickoff. But right now I have Jalen McMillan as a wide receiver 3. You know, I think that he is in line for a lot of work. I think certainly Shepard will get some work. I think the number one guy will be Kate Otten in this offense, but I have him currently at wide receiver 34. He may pop up. Like Juwan Jennings is questionable here to play. What's the ceiling look like for Matt McConaughey on a run first team in a good spot for J.K. Dobbins against the New Orleans Saints? So I think he's a pretty good option this week if you picked him up and you spent some fab, you really need him. But there are some guys that have moved up the ranks, like him, Cedric Tillman, Tyler Lockett. How about Lockett and JSN as a guy that we talked about? Maybe the breakup could happen. Maybe it's as early as this week with DK Metcalf being questioned and not playing.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. I was talking about him earlier in the week waiver-wise. I think Lockett is on also 50% of leagues, something to that nature. And remember, they're up against Buffalo, and Buffalo is going to be able to score. I think those are one of those fun, high-total games, to be sure. You're talking about McMillan at 34, Jennings at 33 is someone, you know, can you imagine if you spent your fab budget on him thinking that there was going to be no Ayuk and no Deebo Samuel? I mean, the man had pneumonia and fluid in his lungs, and then all of a sudden, Deebo back at practice, right? And now Jennings is down. You know, I don't know that most people out there that spent as much fab as they did, you know, they probably assumed that Jennings was going to be the number one without Deebo and Ayuk, and now it's Jennings that's banged up, and Deebo is there. So, you know, that could have actually not turned out as well as you would have anticipated.
No, not at all. No, a lot of money was spent on Jennings, and I don't think he's going to play. I mean, it's just an educated guess. He hasn't practiced all week. It is a Sunday night football game, but be patient with him. I think you bought him for the long term. We know that Ayuk isn't going to play this season, so he will be back at some point. He'll have a role, and be patient with him. But of course, if you need somebody, yourself is a guy that you could consider. We'll get into some flex plays a little bit later on in the show. We're going to hear from Mike Randall in a few moments as well. We'll talk about some picks and some props. He was on the Rams last night over at FTM Fantasy. And, if you've been following along, you've been hanging out in the Discord, we were all over Puka last night, over 28.5 receiving yards. Laddered him up to 80 receiving yards at 10-1. And also jumped in on the live at over 5.5 catches at plus money as well. Promo code FTN Show. Save yourself a little bit of cash, all picks across all sports. And they're all happening here. Oh yeah, the month of October, projections and tools and whatnot. We got your Yankees tonight. Sure. Nervous? How you feeling?
Oh, I'm incredibly nervous. Are you kidding me? I'm very, very nervous. But I like that we got Garrett Cole. I think
Final destination ready to happen.
that the Yankees do have is in pitching, specifically the starting pitching. We're going to see bullpen games out of the Dodgers at some point. I will say this, the one prop that I'm on the Dodgers side is Yamamoto to lead the series in strikeouts at around 5-1. He's going game 2. I think he's going to get 2 starts. He will be an unfamiliar arm to most of these Yankees. And the MVP market, give me a little bit of Juan Soto. I believe the Yankees will be in 7. The one thing I was really, really afraid of, Chris, remember, I'm a big time Yankee fan. I have the PTSD of seeing, Randy Johnson and Kirk Schilling go back-to-back in Game 7 against me. I was really, really worried that, if it's a Game 7
3-2 game, and then all of a sudden Shohei Ohtani makes his way out to the bullpen. Can you imagine how the crowd would react there in Chavez Ravine? And now they are saying that that will not happen, but I don't know if I believe Dave Roberts. The other part, real quick, can you help me hang a line on this? As a Yankee fan, maybe the one clip that I want to see the least is Dave Roberts stealing second base in Game 4 against the New York Yankees in 2003, I believe it was, if you remember. And I think we're going to have to see that, like, I don't know, at least, what, more of that clip, more of Taylor Swift at a Chiefs game.
Maybe more of Taylor Swift at a Chiefs game.
It's close.
There was a touchdown, was it Ben Sinatra who scored a touchdown, and the experience of the play call was...
Yes, they called it Taylor Swift or something like that.
Or Taylor Swift, or something like that. You think that maybe the Chiefs would have those play calls?
I just do not want to see the karma of Dave Roberts stealing a bag off Mario.
I think they just came out with the doc this week at Netflix, or it's coming out of that comeback. Comeback against the Eagles.
Yes. I am not watching. No, I'm on the text chain where that was brought up, and we are not allowed to watch.
Like they burnt something up in there.
I'll tune in. Maybe Stanton's fire is done. Last time 50 win World Series MVP is pretty interesting. He has been back to the NFL. Tua has cleared. He's ready to go here this week. Zay Flowers returned to practice this week, so that's a great sign. Deontay Johnson, earlier in the show, we talked about him saying that he expected to play. He's rolled out. And Adam Thielen's rolled out. And my goodness.
Jonathan makes no time.
Jatavius Sanders has shown up a little bit, but that's with Andy Dalton. I just really do feel for Bryce Young. Denver is a really tough place to go play football, and the defense has been absolutely phenomenal so far this season.
I think you are Javonte, right? That's one of these anticipated game script kind of things. I've been talking about the Broncos as a knockout pool play, maybe a team you haven't used yet. Yeah, that's a tough assignment and a return for the kid.
Yeah, for Javonte Williams coming off a season-high 88 rushing yards last week, and the spot here against Carolina, they'll have the third most points per game, a league-high 162 rushing yards. No team has allowed more rushing touchdowns than the Panthers since the start of last season. So really tough spot for and having to play that Denver defense. So I mean, even Chuba Hubbard, right? Like how confident.
All right, guys, we're going to the mountains. Signal's gonna get kind of bad, so catch us on the next live within the next hour.
Like if you had Chuba, there's a couple backs that
Signal gonna be going in and out anyway.